Welcome to the Success is Subjective podcast series brought to you by the College Parent Survival Network, presented by Lilly Consulting. I'm your host, Joanna Lilly. In today's episode, I had the pleasure of interviewing Kaysha Sorenson. Kaysha is a mother of 5 children in a blended family, where most of her spare time is spent trying to find spare time. Her children range in age from 13 to 22 years old, and she insists she is doing just fine. Kind of. She works as admissions and outreach for Evoke Therapy Programs and is extremely passionate and grateful for what Evoke has done for her professionally, but more so what it has done for her as a parent. Kaysha studied psychology and family studies in her single parent years and is hoping to acquire her master's within the next 2 or 3 years as well. Kaysha finds joy in her marriage, waffle fries, and pebble ice, being outdoors, socializing, and in Diet Dr. Pepper. She is grateful for the field of mental health and is happy to be on this podcast. Well, Kaysha, right back at you. I'm so thrilled that you are willing to be a guest. So let's not wait any longer. Here's Kaysha. Kaysha, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast. Thank you for carving out some time. Thanks for being you, honestly.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like I don't really know your story, but you've shared a little snippets of it for me or towards me. And so I would love for you to kind of fill the audience in. Tell us where you actually grew up, and then tell us what were you hearing from your family as well as the community in which you were raised about post-secondary education?
Yeah, great question. So I grew up in Orem, Utah. They call that area Happy Valley. So I grew up in Happy Valley. I grew up in a pretty unique situation. It feels unique now as an adult, and I speak to people about it, but as a kid, it's what you know, right? So my parents divorced when I was 3, and my mom was a single mom of 6 of us. And so she raised us for about 5 years. And that's a lot of kids, right? And so I share this because it'll all tie into the secondary education piece in a minute. But she married my stepfather when I was around 9, and he had 5 kids. So he was a widower. So together we were a blended family of 11 kids, which in Utah standards isn't like mind blowing, but it's mind blowing. So in hindsight, I'm like, how did my mom raise 6 kids on her own? And then B, how did she, accept the fact that, hey, yeah, why not 5 more? Okay, let's just bring in 5 more. So, so many kids and honestly, a lot of financial hardship that would come with that. Right. And so I went from just a lot of financial hardship growing up. And so I think what was modeled to me was that you just work hard. Secondary education wasn't really talked about, it just in my household. And so, which was pretty normal for my friendship circle. I think at the time, none of us talked about college. None of us, spoke to where we were going to go after high school. We were all trying to make ends meet as teenagers. My stepdad, when I was in high school, he just struggled with employment. He would continually get laid off. And so I began working when I was 14 and just kind of got in that mentality of, oh, this is what we do. We work. We just work. It's that intergenerational poverty or cycle. I don't even know what it was, but secondary education just wasn't really talked about. My first thought about college was my older sister. She ran with a different crowd of, families that had more money and families that their kids were talking about college, where Joanna was this skater kid where we were just hoping would pass classes. We were let us just graduate high school and then we'll continue working at the grocery store making, $4 to $4.25. But she went to college. So she was my first sibling to went to college, and she invited me up to see what it was like. And yeah, I went up and visited her, and I thought it was really cool. She was going to what was called Rick's College back then, is in Idaho. And, but there wasn't a lot of people, and I was a teenager. So I was this is lame. There's not cool stuff to do. So college is therefore lame in my mind. So yeah, not a lot. And what's interesting is I didn't hear about college really from my mom. I didn't hear about it from my stepdad. I didn't hear about it from my dad. And then I had multiple stepmoms. Never, literally of all of those parental figures, higher education, I really don't recall conversations around it. So yeah, as a young adult, I asked, have you had college, and like, have you been to college? And my mom told me that when she was first divorced, she went and she was going into nutrition. I think she only went for a semester or two, and she was making more money at the candy store. Ironically, she was studying nutrition and worked at C's Candy. Sounds right to me, but that in trying to raise kids, that it was more affordable for her to just it made more logical sense for her to just start working. And then my dad, he said he went to a semester and it wasn't for him. And so, yeah, that's a long answer, but really not a lot. I didn't really hear about it. Right. So, yeah.
Well, and gosh, I'm like over here smiling too, because I'm like, okay, so then what did you do? Right.
Yeah.
Like after you graduated high school, like where did your path take you? Because college is not the path that everybody takes. And
Yeah.
I love this, that you're like, culturally speaking, this is just wasn't even like, it wasn't a discussion, right? It wasn't a discussion in my friend groups. Like the focus was working, right? Like how do you actually put food on the table? Like how do I like live my life independent of my parents at some point?
Yeah.
So what did you end up doing?
Yeah. So we started being pretty independent financially pretty young, because we had to be, with my dad losing his job. So I remember like bringing home paychecks to help buy groceries. Like, so I was pretty young when I was doing that. Again, started working when I was 14. And so, yeah, I mean, I've lots of bumps, financial bumps. I learned about credit, and I learned about getting credit cards. And that wasn't a great thing. But yeah, after high school, I had made my way up to be a supervisor at a super Target, and thought I was doing really awesome. And then my long-term boyfriend and I found out I was pregnant. And so then what do you do now, right? In the Utah culture, you get married. So I was married when I was 19, and had a baby when I was 20. And so I got thrown into being like a young mom, and again, still working because you had to, right? And so worked until I've never stopped working. I don't know why I say it until, and so so I had a son, and my ex-husband joined the military. So we're a little military family. I had 2 more kids, and then found myself divorced with 3 kids at age 26 with no like education. And at that point was like working at the Home Depot, and pretty stoked about it because I was making like $11 an hour, which was awesome back then. And yeah, so that's when I actually was like, oh wait, what does it look like now for me to be a sole provider, right? And so that's when I was like, Mom and Dad, did you go to college? Why didn't you go to college? And that's when my interest was really piqued into higher education, and that's when I went back. So I went to college as a 26-year-old with 3 kids, working full time and raising kids full time and going to school full time. It was wild. It was wild.
My jaw literally just hit the floor. I'm like that. I was going to say bonkers, because to me, that's how I would describe, like, when did you sleep?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I actually, in hindsight, I'm like, how did I do that? But really it was a lot of help of like, I went through my divorce. I was living in Colorado, and my mom was in St. George, and I moved to her. And so with her help is how I did it. Right. I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I'd do my 5 to 2 a.m. shift, and then do college, spend some time with my kids and do college at night. So it's kind of fun. My college graduation letter that I created has my kids holding a sign that said no more homework, because I was literally like, as soon as I'm done with my homework, for 4 years. And so they were ready to be done with me having homework. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I think you just do, right?
Yeah.
I think it's hard, and you just do.
Well, it also speaks, I think, to just kind of the generational difference as well, of like, what it was like for your mom to be a single parent, back then, versus what it's like to be somebody our age. And, like just living in a more really like from a like not cultural perspective, but kind of societal perspective of like, college, even though I just prefaced it as like college isn't for everybody, or like it's not the path that everybody takes, it's the majority, because that's what society in the 21st century is saying, especially to women. go to college, go to college,
Yes.
go to college, because this is like how you provide for yourself and how you provide for your family. And I mean, I could go down the rabbit hole there, but poof,
For sure.
you are superwoman to have done that.
I
Like
don't know.
truly.
What's so funny, Joanna, is like I've course corrected at least probably a little too much in raising my kids. I was like, where do you want to go to college? College, 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 right? And so, because I mean, even as a single mom, barely making it work, I loved college. Like, I loved learning and like I loved soaking it in and feeling progress. And like, I mean, I study psychology, and I remember one of my professors being like, "This isn't your therapy," and I was like, "That's false. Like, this is my therapy. This is awesome." And so for my young adult kids, it was that, when you go to college, and what's funny about what you said, John, it was the same thing for my daughter, Nora. I was like, I pounded it in her head. And so she's at college, right? She's up studying architectural engineering. And it's so fun for me to like watch her experience, like, that just the joy of living in a dorm and doing it kind of, not that there's a right way, but doing it more the traditional way. Meanwhile, my other two boys, my oldest, he went for a year and he was like, that was the worst. I don't want to do that. He was like, college is the worst. And he's just my artist, like outdoor, like lived in his VW, wagon for a little while kid. And so to speak what you're saying, college isn't for everybody. And it's fun to be like, you know what, like in my parenting that I'm at now, which is a lot different than my parenting, even 5 years ago, thanks to like the work that we're in. I can say that exactly what you said, that it's not for everybody, and that's okay. Like, you get to figure this out, and it doesn't have to be, a college degree. It can be whatever it is. So it's fun.
Yeah. Well, and I really like that you're talking about, I mean, you've got so many different layers to what it is that you're talking about, because you are a quote unquote adult learner, right? Which is what college is calling you, even though you're a young parent. And then fast forward how that has shifted your own personal perspective on higher education, or what post-secondary education looks like. And now it's kind of trickled down to your own relationships with your own children. But more importantly, the conversation is, it's not go, go, go. It is like, you do you, but know how important this could be if this is what works out for you, right?
Yeah,
or do something else.
Exactly that. Yeah.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
You might be one of my favorite guests.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I think what's interesting is that I did like overcorrect. And then, as again, working in this industry, you learn about letting your kids become their own selves and let them have their path that makes sense for them. I think in hindsight, I just wish that I would have known that like college was a path, right, for me. And then at the same time, there's that like cliche of no, I don't, because what would it have looked like for me, right? Like it would have, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have been as passionate about learning as I was as, this single mom that was hungry. So yeah.
Well, I think we're going to continue to just kind of go through this conversation. So we're a little off track for the typical like Q&As, but I think what you just brought up is exactly why there are so many young people that at age 18 end up at college and are really struggling, right? It's that sense of identity. Yeah. It's the sense of like, honestly being burnt out from school and not being curious. And the whole point of going to college is you got to be hungry for learning. And if you're not hungry for learning, then you're definitely in college for the wrong reasons. Because college, my friends, is a full-time job as a student. If you don't want that as your job, do something else.
Yes, exactly. And there's so many really great things to do right now. I mean, my husband actually just started night school doing a tech certification. So am I saying that right? It's a HVAC tech certification. I don't know what I'm saying. But anyway, bless my heart that I couldn't even say that word. but I'm just saying that like learning, but he's hungry for it now. And so it's fun to see him be a student at 42, So
that's so cool. Right. And college has no age cutoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Again, we keep saying like at 18, you need to know your path and like follow that path. But it's like, you can fail at 20. You can succeed at 25. And again, I'm being obviously like this like layman's terms, failure and success, which could be a completely different conversation in itself. But
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is you can have so many different career paths. You can divert off the path that you have started down 100 times and more. Like it doesn't matter. Just like do something. But
and that's what I think our kids need to hear. Isn't that what, like, that's what I needed to hear, you know?
Yeah. You're listening to the Success is Subjective podcast, and I'm your host, Joanna Lilly. As a reminder, if you've missed any past episodes, you can catch them on Apple Podcasts. My guest today is Kaysha Sorenson. So let's circle back to you.
Okay.
Obviously, you are, like you said, is Nora your middle child?
Yes.
Must be.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
Nora's already in college, which means that you've had a few years since you've graduated college yourself as a young mom. So I'm kind of curious, once you got your degree, kind of fill us in a little bit actually in that the chapter of life of like, what the heck did you do once you got your degree?
Yeah. So I got my bachelor's in psychology and family studies, and the long-term goal was to become a clinician. And I was like, I'm just going to take a break. I have 3 kids and I'm trying to make ends meet, and I'm still on that break. Like I just couldn't fathom going to get my master's because there was no more like single parent scholarships. There wasn't all these like things that I could get to get my bachelor's. And so I never did return, which is one of my biggest regrets. In fact, I'm looking into doing that now. Like it's this cool experience of maybe it's my season to figure it out. Right. And so hoping to find a program actually is where I'm at right now. But so what did I do between the, then and now is just survive. Like I was, you're a single mom with a bachelor's, which is awesome, but doesn't get you, when you're studying to be a therapist with a bachelor's in psychology, gets you like a social work introduction, like job, an entry-level job. And which is what I did. I worked in suicide and drug prevention for local government and did guest speaking in high schools and like work with legislators. And that was kind of my path. And I really loved it. I loved the work. And I mean, it's local government, so you don't make very much money. It's social work. Like you're just barely making ends meet. And so I was doing that. And then in my free time at night, I was usually working like a second, third, or, there was a season when I had 7 different like part-time jobs I was juggling. It was wild. And so from then to now I was working, like that's what I was doing. And then, I got remarried, after pretty much my kids were raised, almost 5 years ago. So, and that kind of freed up some of that sole provider demand to now having a double income and being able to kind of sit back and go, what am I doing with my one precious life? Like, and I found this industry and it's been beautiful, like so much like personal healing, like, and also just growth. And it's been a joy. So I've been doing this I'm going on my 5th year. So I got married and joined this industry. It was awesome. So, yeah.
Well, life's all about choices. So now you're in that, you're at the fork in the road. How do you do it?
Yeah. Yeah. And my older kids are all like young adults. So it's this different season of life. It's wild. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you, we're going to go a little off script down the line too when I ask for advice, because I think it would actually be beneficial for you to also give the listeners some advice for parents, right? Parents of young adults, like what advice would you give them? But before we do that, I think it's important to actually do, if you feel comfortable, shameless plug, because you said, I do admissions and outreach and I love it. But I think people need to know where you are doing that so that they know how to connect with you and learn a little bit about, what is it that brings you so much joy about the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work for Evoke Therapy Programs, and the admissions role is really sitting with other parents who it's wild because their kids are the same age as my kids, which I still think I'm 30. So it's really wild, but it's been, what I love about it is that I can sit with that parent and say, and really feel like I get it. Right. And say, yeah, this is hard, this parenting gig. Right. And so that piece is pretty special. It's pretty special to me to be able to, just empathize. And then obviously the outreach part is a lot of joy too. It's a lot of connecting with people like you and other programs. And I mean, this is a culture of people that are wanting to help people, and what a cool culture to be a part of, right? It's this, I mean, it's these beautiful people that all just want like help and healing for families. So, yeah. So, and a lot of my parenting has shifted and hopefully become better because of this line of work, right? I mean, I'm I'm in the work and I'm sitting with parents during a really difficult decision, but I'm also fully like taking advantage of the Evoke, like the parent programming, like our podcasts and our webinars. I'm just digesting it every week as well. Yes, it helps me, be better at my job, but it also just helps me being better at being better at being a parent, and also just being better at being a self. And so it's been a pretty beautiful journey. I feel lucky.
So I'm going to ask you this because I ask all of my guests this kind of
Sure.
point blank. Do you
Yeah.
see yourself as successful?
Oh, that's a heavy question, Joanna. That's a tricky one. I would say, yeah, yes. I think that like there's success in knowing that it's okay to not always be successful. That's kind of a mind gymnastic thing piece there, but I don't know. There's success in knowing that it's okay to rise and to fall,
So if you could give with that, if you could give one piece of advice to a young adult that is struggling,
yeah.
whether it's Kaysha circa 19 years old, like, what advice are you going to give that young person? Or just like
Yeah.
generically speaking, because you're working with parents all the time who have young adults, like you said, that are really kind of, they're desperate for help. And so what advice would you give a young adult?
Such a great question. I think for 19-year-old Kaysha, the advice would be to learn about birth control. You can totally edit that out, but if you want to keep it, it's fine. But yeah, like
I'm
again,
dying.
back to like the Utah culture, like we just didn't, like you just didn't talk about that, and so I think for parents of young adults, I mean, I think we're in a different world than we were in back in the 90s, but like talk to your kids about that so that they don't find themselves 19 and trying to figure out that avenue. But and then I think I would tell 19-year-old Kaysha that she doesn't have to work so hard. Yeah. Yeah. What advice would I give to, well, I have young adults. I have three of them. I have a 19, almost 19. He's going to turn 19 next month, and then a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old. And I find that I'm only giving advice when asked, which I think is helpful, right? I think I try to be a space of just listening and validation and agreeing that young adulthood is hard. Like it is so hard. And so, yeah, just I think patience and that you can always try again. Like there's, no failure's ever final. You can continue to shift gears and try different paths, and there's no rush. I think that's what I'm saying, right, to my kids. My oldest son is pretty driven, but can't quite figure out in which way and has a lot of hardship around that. And so what I'm seeing him do is try different career paths, and then, nope, that's not it. Nope, that's it. Nope, that's not it. And it's actually great because I don't want him to feel pigeonholed in something just so that he can make ends meet, right? So I don't know if that's helpful.
Super helpful. Well, and then to kind of flip that script, what advice would you then give to a parent of a young adult who is, again, I keep using struggling, but I also feel like that's really nebulous in how we're interpreting that or, deciding to define that. And so, just generically, I imagine this is almost like if I was a fly on the wall for the phone calls that you have with some of these parents that are calling you, like, what do we do, Kaysha? Like, what advice are you giving them?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what I'm doing with my kids, which is just providing a space to be heard and encouraging them to get curious. Like, why is my kiddo struggling? What's the why behind it all? And I think when we get curious, the pieces all come together. It starts to make sense that, college was really rough for my oldest son because he doesn't do well with verbal, like he doesn't do well with written word, and he doesn't do well with that type of structured learning. And so of course not, right? So I think, just getting curious around what the struggle is and what it means for them. And also being open to the path looking different, that everybody's path gets to be different. That's what's so awesome and hard.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think as you were talking, I was just thinking, like, I'm seeing your face light up because you're totally in this really cool, you're like perched, right? Like observing your adult children figure out their own paths, and your perspective on the view that you have is coming from a place of curiosity and just excitement, rather than what I feel like is often for the families that are showing up on our doors is fear, right?
So
Fear of them not living up to their potential, or the parent expectations for their path, or whatever else. And it really is this like almost we're all waiting, like holding our breath.
Yes.
But I'm describing this too because I'm witnessing your facial expressions, which the folks can't see. But like, if you know Kaysha and you know how she like lights up when she's talking about something she loves, like that's what I'm witnessing right now, and it's been beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think I want to share that there's still fear for me, right? As much as there, like just to validate that that's still there. It's the difference now for me is that I've learned to take my fear to my therapist or my girlfriends or whatever it is, right? Or to chat with people like you in the industry, right? Instead of like placing it on the burden of my kids, right? Putting it on their shoulders. Like, I mean, just think of the burden that you carry of your parents, like what they wanted for you, right? And so I try to remind myself of that and to remove that a little bit, and so fear still comes. It's just that I've learned better to cope with it, right? So
you haven't let it become all encompassing, right?
Yeah,
like it hasn't been.
I've tried that before. It's really fun. It's the best. No, yeah. You have to kind of check that emotion, right? Figure out what it's about. So yeah.
So I know that there's going to be people that are for sure going to listen to this. In fact, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to listen to this, but more importantly, I'm hopeful that people will listen to it and reach out to you after, because maybe they've learned something about you that they didn't know before, or maybe it's a complete stranger who's just like reaching out to say thank you, right? For your parent perspective or for sharing your own journey. So with that, how can people actually connect with you?
Yeah. I probably best is just my email. So, and that's my first name, which is Kaysha, Kaysha @evoketherapy.com. I also do love me some social media. We all know that, Joanna. Like, I just love that it can be, a place to share some fun stuff. So I am on social media as well. Mostly just Facebook because I'm a 42-year-old woman, and Instagram as well. So yeah.
Oh, I'm loving these stereotypes. I'm like, really, I'm trying to hold back on laughing, but I realize that I have laughed extremely hard in a few moments during this conversation, which maybe I need to take that to my therapist. Rein that on in. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to honestly be open and, transparent, moments of vulnerability and like a moment of, just appreciation and humor, because that's so important in the world that we live in now too, right? The short life that we have, how are we living it? I appreciate you sharing where your life has brought you up until this point.
Absolutely. Thank you for providing a space to do that. And also just being someone that you can feel comfortable enough to do those things with. So thank you.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their very personal story with the world. You can follow me, Joanna, on Instagram @LilyConsulting. and on Facebook at Lily Consulting LLC. Most importantly, though, check out the resources link on my website at lilyconsulting.com, and that's Lilley consulting.com, or you can just search on Google for Lily Consulting. You can also download and subscribe to listen to the Success is Subjective interviews on any popular podcast app, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Make sure you check out the show notes where you'll find contact information, website details, links to articles, and all social media for our guest. Thank you, our listener, for tuning in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.